Welcome to Views from the Top, the podcast from our partners. I'm Andrew Wheatley and I lead our cloud and data services business. And with me today I have Peter Sweetbaum. Peter, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew.
Slightly different venue today to our usual trip to Marnie's Village Inn.
Absolutely. Great plug for a very good pub.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You've had a really fascinating career to date, I'd say, almost riding the waves of technology through cloud and now into the AI wave and software along the way. Businesses like Content+Cloud, like Ethics-Based 360, and now your non-exec roles with a number of companies. Be really interested to get a sense of how your skill set has changed through that journey and how that sets you up for this next wave of AI-driven change.
I guess my career has been about going through multiple eras of technology and technology change, starting with digital transformation, moving into cloud transition and cloud-based transformation, into SaaS, and then now into AI. And each of those eras have placed different challenges. It's been exciting amongst themselves, but have created different challenges for companies having to really change their business models through that process. So that's been really exciting. I think what I've seen typically being in PE is that the companies that I've worked with have had to go through a transition, really developing a 7-year perspective on their journey, not just that 4-year PE view, because obviously when they start, they've got to have a forward-leaning view towards what the business is going to look like at the end of that journey, and then thinking about what is going to be in the future to be attractive to buyers.
Yeah.
But if I look back across my seemingly very long career, I think the things I'm most proud of, without a doubt, are Content+Cloud, which was an incredible journey with an incredible team of people, an incredible partner with ECI, a great private equity house, and equally the work that we did in government. Really, that was the start of driving digital transformation in government, thinking about citizens, making sure that government services were accessible to citizens. And the one program that I really, was very, very keen on and crucial to was DVLA and the transformation of DVLA, which I think is the standout digital service in government today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's interesting. You've seen all those different waves, and I think your 7-year forward view is interesting. I guess a good question is, how do you look 7 years forward, right? In a world which is changing so quickly. I think the wave at the moment is probably changing quicker than any of us have ever seen it, right? How do you kind of stay current and follow that?
I think you've got to evolve, really. I think you've got to, first of all, look at customer need always as the central focus for what you're doing and what you're building, because they're the ones that are buying your services. And I think looking now, the reality is looking at the key cloud and technology providers and see the trends of where they're developing as well. But I think at the core of it is making sure that you're delivering services and devising services that will help customers succeed more effectively and evolving and building skills and capabilities as you go.
It's super relevant today because I think the technology around AI is fantastic, but the adoption is probably one of the key topics that people are kind of dealing with at the moment. So it's I think the service industry's got a huge opportunity to push through that, is my sense.
It does. I think it's also got a huge challenge, right? And I think there's a massive shift in the IT services industry, particularly, that built itself around ultimately the OEMs and the Microsoft ecosystems.
Yes.
And that really happened pretty early on. We did that at Content+Cloud.
Yeah.
And having to shift to AI and devise business models which create value for themselves, not just for the OEMs and the AI providers, which is right now the biggest challenge that they're all facing. I could completely agree. And a great segue actually into Content+Cloud. So maybe we touch a little bit on that business. So maybe you could just outline what the business does and I guess a little bit of the transformation is IT labs initially, then you put your stamp on it and took it into exit. But maybe just remind everyone what that business did. Yeah, Content+Cloud is now known as Advania UK, which was the company that acquired us, the Nordic business, Goldman Sachs-backed business. They acquired us in 2021. Really, the derivation of the business, the history is it started out as IT labs, which was really a service desk business, support business for SMBs and beta mid-market, really. That began to evolve. I joined the business in 2014 and really sat down with the owner at the time and said, we need to build a revised and new vision and strategy for this business in this market today. And we got scale, took it to private equity in June 2016, fortunately backed by, again, ECI, great partner, and really set a strategy that was probably quite contentious in the private equity community, which was take a managed services business with strong ARR bias and acquire a whole series of professional services capability businesses on top, which was an anathema really to private equity, who understandably like ARR, as do I. I'm a self-confessed ARR junkie. I like to know we're going to pay people next month.
Yes.
But what was clear to me was two things. One is we needed to become known and defined for capabilities that customers were looking for. And we could see early on that Microsoft was taking what it was then referring to as the three clouds and building a converged ecosystem that customers were going to really, really be able to leverage. And so building expertise in that capability was really, really key. And then we bought capability businesses from cybersecurity through to Azure capability to cloud, and modern workplace and SharePoint, hence Content+Cloud. And those capability acquisitions work together with the managed services business in a really symbiotic way, because we could help our customers envisage where they wanted to go, get them there, and then support them once they're in that ecosystem and go through that kind of virtuous cycle. And that was really, really powerful. And it's a great journey.
Yeah. I remember you and I having dinner just after you'd done the Content+Cloud deal, which was one of the key acquisitions going into the group. And I think at that point you were like, I'm onto something here. This is going to take us to the next stage. And that vision you had was coming to the fore. And the rewards were, it was a great exit and a great deal, right? Yeah. But going into it, you must have had quite a sense of some of the risks around this as well. Professional services firms are, different to managed services firms. The cultural bit's different as well. Yeah. Just be interested in your views on some of the challenges around that.
Yeah, there's no doubt there's a risk. And cultures are very different between MS and PS. Mm-hmm. And I think it's about taking the time to really, really understand and work with the business that's becoming part of the group, make sure it's a shared journey. We mm-hmm. worked really hard to ensure that it was a collective vision that we could create. And on the back of that, integration was different depending on the nature of the business. We didn't have a specific timeline for integration because I think it varied depending on the company that we acquired, and to get the cultures right and get the transformation right between us.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Microsoft relationship would be super important to that as well, I guess, right?
Oh, that was massive. And one of the great things is the companies that we acquired had great relationships with Microsoft, great pedigree with Microsoft, and we invested significantly in the Microsoft relationship. Mm-hmm. We actually formalized a Microsoft engagement group internally, which was led from the top, and enabled us to be able to partner with Microsoft for their benefit and for our benefit as well. I think we delivered significant growth within our business, but also brought Microsoft quite a lot of revenue as well. We were pleased to say, and we're a good partner.
Has to work both ways. And that makes complete sense. And as an aside, your view on Microsoft today, obviously they've invested in OpenAI, they've got the Copilot piece running out, so lots of evolution, but also some change in the broader landscape. We see lots going with Claude at the moment, big announcement this morning on that front as well. So I'd just be interested in your perspectives on how Microsoft are doing.
Look, Microsoft, first of all, if we roll back, did an extraordinary job of reinventing itself during the cloud and cloud transformation era. Mm-hmm. I think obviously huge investments in AI and OpenAI have been pivotal to Microsoft again. Obviously reading and creating the roadmap for the world and technology ecosystem. Yeah. They are, they've always been sensibly open to partnering with other technology vendors, the technology ecosystem, and there's the same view, obviously, with Anthropic as well. Finding Claude embedded within Copilot, and allowing equivalent access and enabling the best ecosystem for the users of Microsoft tooling to be able to get access to the AI tools that they need is very, very Microsoft.
Yeah, not many people would want to bet against Microsoft to succeed across a number of fronts. But
No. No.
Super interesting. Maybe just wrapping up on Content and Cloud, there was the sale to Advania that we were lucky enough to help you guys with. We'd be interested just to get any reflections on that, on the sort of exit process, on the integration post, and obviously the succession of Jeff in the business. Would be great just to hear a little bit about your thoughts there.
Sure. I mean, I think a couple of things. First of all, we prepped for that even before we chose our advisors. We prepped well. We even brought in a group of individuals who were focused on operational technology, financial, and strategic capabilities to grill us as a team. And we did that because we wanted to be in top shape for that process and to really get some external validation. It's easy to have a bit of an internal reflection, but you need some external perspective. We then obviously chose our advisors. And we chose you guys, which was great. I don't mind plugging you and thanking you, by the way. Did an amazing job. And I think, we still have one of the high watermark deals and valuations in the sector. Clearly timing helped, but also I think we built a great business, but we presented it well. And I think the presentation is key because it's very hard to distinguish the USPs and businesses in this industry today.
Yeah.
Too many of the businesses in this industry present themselves as managed services, professional services, one-off revenues. So presenting themselves as the type of revenue as opposed to the services that they're providing with the capabilities that they're bringing to the customers. And buyers really can't get under the skin of what MSPS and one-off means. So translating that into what our service capabilities are and the historic financial performance related to those, and then the future growth story related to what we actually do for our customers was really, really powerful. And if you remember, we took quite a bit of time doing that. And that, I think, had massive impact on the ability for Advania to understand what capabilities they were buying within Content and Cloud at the time.
Yeah, thank you. No, I agree that bringing out the differentiation in the business, but then importantly, putting the numbers and the case studies and making that feel tangible. Yeah. And that was something you guys as a team presented on really, really well, and a great business. But yeah, great to be part of that story for sure.
Yeah.
And then I guess next step post Content Cloud was ethics-based 360. Yeah. So a shift into software. So really interesting as the space evolves, you moved into the software side of things, and ESG in particular around that. Be great just to unpack that a little bit. So maybe you could just remind us as to what does ethics-based do and your role there.
Sure. Look, the transition was two things, really. One is I wanted to do something that had some semblance of societal impact. Mm-hmm. Clearly, the technology and technology services are important to keep the world going, but to make it a better place. Mm-hmm. Ethics-based represented an opportunity to do that. Ethics-based provides third-party risk management, which is supply chain due diligence, really. And principally for global corporates and mid-sized corporates who are operating in systems and supply chains where there are examples of bribery, there are examples of modern slavery, and that represents a real risk. So ethics-based is focused on the S and the G in the ESG family. And those things are not going away. They are still reputational risks for ethics-based clients. And ethics-based had a fantastic platform to be able to deliver that due diligence very efficiently and to really basically take a risk-based view on the risk and exposure to modern slavery and anti-bribery within the supply chains that our customers are dealing with, mm-hmm. particularly as global businesses operating and with supply chains in China, in Africa, et cetera, and various jurisdictions. I think that it's absolutely a changing world as far as ESG is concerned. Yeah. Politically, in the US, it may not be flavor of the 4 month of the current administration. But the reality is that the companies that we served at Ethics Base, and it continues to serve, are businesses that have been around for a long time. They're large. They've invested significant amounts in their ESG programs and the supply chain due diligence. That's not going away by any stretch of the imagination. And reputational risk is still hugely risky to them and important to them. And they need to maintain it irrespective of the political differences in view, I think. And I think is challenging. But
so the commercial aspect will win through, and those kind of businesses will continue to grow well and sort of weather whatever the political weather is at that point in time.
Yeah, I do think so. And I think that the emphasis may be slightly away from doing the right thing to doing the thing that's important for the business. Makes sense. But that's okay. That's a perfectly valid thing to do. And, businesses want to meet their customers' needs, and the customers' needs are working with and buying from ethical businesses.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And that transition for you from services to software, be interested in your perspective on that. I mean, similarities and differences, but running a business that's doing software versus services would be interesting.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that a SaaS business is different than a services business. We did have a services component within Ethics Base, and still do, which is about 30% of the revenue base.
Sure.
But very symbiotic with the SaaS platform services. The SaaS business itself was, I think, critical to enable Ethics Base to do what it does at scale, and also in a way, and designed and architected in a way that was highly flexible. There's no doubt that the change in emphasis in AI and using AI where it's relevant in the process chain of delivering due diligence services is becoming more important. And Ethics Base 360 is obviously clearly focusing on its AI component journey as well. I think the key thing is, though, that we have to realize is there's a conservatism within due diligence and within compliance within corporates, and they are not yet wholly ready to take AI-based risk decisions, and therefore it needs more human intervention, more human assessment to really get comfortable with risk-based decisions around sensitive areas like modern slavery and anti-bribery. Yeah. So I think it's a transition for the industry. I don't think it's going to be a major quick leap.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And great segue in sort of how does that whole world evolve between SaaS and software? And we talked before about the convergence of those two, clearly Ethics Base as an example of that. But how do you see that evolving, and what's the role of AI to play across that?
I think that AI will form a continuing part of SaaS transition and transformation.
Yep.
But SaaS isn't going away either, in my view. Personally, if you look at certain vertical capabilities or deep functional capabilities where they're non-core to an organization's operations, there isn't necessarily the same compulsion to do away with SaaS today if there's higher priorities and bigger priorities within organizations.
Yeah.
But there's no reason not to take advantage of the data interconnect between those applications, assuming they're accessible, and an organization's AI ambitions.
Yeah, so it's part of the connective technology tissue, right?
Yeah.
And the models will evolve and people do what's commercially viable in the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Maybe moving on, almost continuing that theme of convergence of the space, one of your recent roles is the chair of Focus Group. And congrats on that.
Thank you very much.
Another great business, this time backed by HG. Would be interested just to get your views on how that space is evolving, and there's a huge AI component to that and another Microsoft component to that as well.
Exactly.
So maybe you could just set out sort of what Focus Group does and how that strategy is evolving and your role within that.
Sure. So I'm non-exec chair of Focus Group. I've been involved with the business since November 24, after HG acquired the business. And look, for me, IT services and technology services was always in my DNA. I was going to end up back there somehow, some way, and I love it, and I always will. I think Focus Group was an incredible choice and very fortunate to be involved in. Clearly one of the best organic growth businesses, top quartile organic growth businesses in the sector, as well as significant M&A history and capability, and building value from M&A. Yeah. So it was exciting. Equally, getting the opportunity to work with HG, one of the leading houses, was fantastic. Really, really great capability. And what I love about HG is its scale and its ability to bring genuine value add to its investments, and working with the portfolio companies to genuinely build innovation, and drive change. Yeah. And they have the scale to do that, and that comes through consistently in the relationship.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know you were on the West Coast recently for one of their big AI summits.
Yeah.
As the chair working with with a fund like HG, how does it sort of work on a day-to-day basis with HG? How are they very hands-on, and where do they help you add the value in the business?
They're not hands-on in terms of actually being involved in the BAU running of the business. Clearly, we've got a great team, and they're doing that. but what they are doing is making available the power of their investments across the portfolio in capabilities like AI, as a very good example,
Yep.
and helping translate that into functional improvements across whether it's finance function, whether it's sales and marketing,
Yep.
and enabling Focus to do what it probably couldn't otherwise do under its own steam without that kind of investment and capability attraction.
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah.
And strategy-wise, so Focus comes from a communications, a comms heritage, if you like. I know a key part of the investment thesis when we were helping HG at the time they went in was all around a shift toward Microsoft, building out into IT services, and there's clearly a massive AI component to that as well. Just be great to get your sense on how is that journey going, and what's the business doing, and what are some of the AI tools that are being plugged into that business, if you like.
Yeah, the journey's going well.
Yeah.
We have a fantastic CEO in Neil Hall, and the team is continuing to evolve.
Yep.
The approach in terms of AI, it's emphatically across the entire business. We're an AI-first organization. And obviously with AI, if you look at it from two lenses, really, one is obviously the operational improvement that can be made through AI.
Yeah.
And then obviously the commercial value proposition in revenue terms from AI. If we take the first one, operational transformation, we're going through a major back-end transformation and platform transformation within Focus Group, which is being AI-enabled throughout from really lead to cash. And that's been great because we've been able to leverage the HG partner ecosystem to help us do that with the right LLMs, the right partners, et cetera. So that's been great. And we'll begin to see the margin improvement and the operational efficiency and ability to scale without the same cost structures going forward, which is great. In terms of revenue, as you mentioned, obviously we're a telco business and IT services business with an increasing percentage of IT services.
Yeah.
And we're seeing really good cross-sell of IT services into the telco ecosystem and going fantastically well. But one of the things we're clear on is that within the SMB space in which Focus operates, our clients really don't have the capacity, knowledge, or understanding to implement AI, right? They hear about it.
Yeah.
They get it conceptually, don't have a clue what to do. And that's where organizations like us come in, where we can help create more productizable, leverageable AI-based solutions that are easily plugged into an organization. And our focus really is actually to help our clients do what they do more successfully, which is a transition from previously in IT services, which was to help them operate more efficiently. Now it's to be more successful. And the role of AI in doing that is really key.
I think that moved to that sort of closer to your clients, if that makes sense, right?
Exactly right.
Not just the back-end infrastructure, but the front-end enablement and true transformation, which I think is super interesting. And lots of themes, again, around helping people to deploy the technology and the convergence of those technologies. I think, as the waves of your career have kind of shown, it's following the technology in the right way, and I think it's super interesting. Certainly, how when we look at a business, we're very focused on sort of what's the technology chops of the business and what's the capabilities, because that's such a big determinant of success, and obviously having the right people around it to deliver that. But
always starting with the client need.
Yes,
right? And understanding the client need. I think the closer and more intimacy you have with the client, and the better you understand the way they work, their processes, their drivers, their line of business applications, their data, the more value you can add as a provider. And Focus is definitely, focused on that. You can't get away with it. You can't get away from that.
Every time. No, I get it. Brilliant. And congrats on your most recent appointment as well. DSP Group with LDC. That's another super interesting business to be connected to. And now into the Oracle ecosystem, going almost back to the roots of the data here. So another key part of the combined ecosystem. Would love to just maybe first of all just set out what does DSP do, and then your kind of views on how the Oracle ecosystem is evolving, maybe contrast to Microsoft.
Yeah, sure. First of all, DSP as a business is basically a UK, North American provider of Oracle services, professional services, managed services, and some resell. But its focus is on corporates, mid-sized corporates to low enterprise organizations using products across the Oracle ecosystem, starting with obviously databases all the way up to Oracle Cloud and Fusion.
Yeah. So. And I'd say the investments in Oracle in terms of AI and the big compute they're building out have been well documented.
Yeah.
Do you see that coming through in the customer experience, to your point before, and the technology that DSP has to leverage?
Without a shadow of a doubt. And what we're seeing is, first of all, Oracle has really established itself not only just within the database ecosystem, but as a hyperscaler, core in its application capabilities.
Yeah.
And now in AI and the availability of AI agents within Oracle AI.
Yeah.
And it's brought all these things together at a level and scale that customers can depend on that Oracle ecosystem to enable its AI transformation, but in an open way. So Oracle Azure, for instance, is something Oracle totally supports, and is as well as AWS, of course. So Oracle itself has the same mindset as Microsoft in terms of recognizing an open ecosystem.
Yeah. It's interesting how all those players are kind of almost reinventing themselves, and massive investments and CapEx cycles around that. I guess you've kind of got SAP, and you've got Oracle, and you've got Dynamics, and then you've got the newer players as well, the Snowflake, Databricks, etc. I think this new wave rises. The tide rises all boats, if that makes sense. But just get your sense of winners and losers across that spectrum. Do you see everybody winning equally there, or do you see some difference between those different ecosystems?
I think there's opportunities for all, to be honest with you, because there's different organizations with different types of workloads and different legacy ecosystems and the way they transition. I think as long as the providers continue to provide enabling technologies that have an open component to them, then they'll be attractive. And if you look at Oracle AI and the ability to pull agents serving different business needs, or the ability to work with companies like DSP, who are helping our clients build agents or utilize those agents in the way that they're working and transforming, then that's what they're looking for. If you look at Oracle databases and the latest version, 26 AI, that is compatible completely in terms of Snowflake and Databricks, in terms of the ability to leverage unstructured data.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
The one thing I can add, though, is obviously you asked about the comparison between working in the Oracle ecosystem versus the Microsoft ecosystem, and I think in both cases, it's about how good of a service provider you are, ultimately to the client, and how much you can work with the client to anticipate their needs and their requirements. And the great thing about Content+Cloud and DSP is there's a huge amount of similarity in terms of really, really high quality professionalism and deep consultative capability that's actually enabled that to work very, very well. So, our job is to help our clients leverage that ecosystem to succeed. And so
that makes sense.
Very similar.
Yeah, no, complete parallels again with that Microsoft conversation. And the agents you mentioned, obviously this agentic era is a big push this year. How do you see the Oracle agents being adopted at the moment? Because we certainly see mixed stories across the ecosystem as to whether the agents are working, being adopted. Sometimes they're bundled in, sometimes they're not. But good to get a sense of sort of adoption on the ground, if that makes sense.
Beginning to see functional level adoption, whether it's HR related or legal, etc. And customers they're slower than probably the hype may represent. I think people are being careful. I think the data aspect of it is the biggest obstacle to getting access to the right information for those LLMs to be as successful as they need to be. But we're seeing it clearly more and more investment in it, and that's not stopping.
And again, a big role for the service provider to play in hooking up that data and making the technology actually work and deliver the customer an outcome, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. And I guess more broadly then on the overall market evolution, just be interested to get your views on where you see it kind of going with this combination of software and services, the infusion of AI enabling all things. Is this are we going to an outcome-based world? And your sense of how that moves forward and the role of the services firm within it.
Yeah, look, I definitely think we're going towards an outcome-based world. But I think if I was starting today and establishing a business, I think it would definitely have a real focus on the end customer, building vertical capabilities, and taking the combination of data skills AI skills and vertical understanding and knowledge, and using those three things converge to build value-added services to specific industries that can scale.
Yeah.
I think it's too hard to be a true horizontal player,
Yes.
and to have as much intimacy as you want to have. I think, picking and choosing those providers who do understand your vertical.
Yes.
So a good example of that is within Focus.
Yes.
An NHS-based AI solution is now being rolled out to GP surgeries, and that's really exciting.
Interesting. No, I completely agree. As you get closer to your customer's customer, you have to get vertical, otherwise you don't understand the use case as well. And you don't understand the industry context. So it completely makes sense. And what about from an ecosystem perspective? I like your example there of, if I was setting up something today, so a blank piece of paper, would you do something that was ecosystem neutral?
Specific or neutral?
Or neutral, yeah, because we've seen some great examples recently of OpenAI partners selling for fantastic valuations, and the same across some of the other new worlds. But then you've also got a role of people who can bring all those things together. So interested in your view on that.
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think it really depends on scale and capital and resources.
Yes.
I think it's a progression. I think starting out with expertise within a specific ecosystem and then opening that up in line with customer need is the right thing to do. I think the question is, how do you get that kind of scale of resource? And one of the things we've done at DSP, for instance, is we've opened up India as a delivery center, because the quality of capability and the services that they can provide, and the team that provides there, particularly around Fusion, is almost better than we can get in the UK, in some ways, in Canada. And so that's, I guess, representative of different ways of scaling in a way that's cost effective, economic, and can provide excellent service.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess really zooming out in terms of optimism around the space more broadly. Obviously, the UK has got some interesting opportunities and some challenges around this space. When you, as someone who's spent your life in sort of in the UK ecosystem around software and services, what are you excited about in the UK market at the moment?
Look, there's a huge amount of potential. I think it's the ability for people to reinvent their businesses, which they have to do, and the ability to invent new businesses. I think the challenge lies with those who have legacy models, legacy services, and will find it hard to transition. I think what we're seeing openly is constraint on growth, organic growth.
Yes.
Impact on multiples accordingly. And I think there's probably an element of consolidation that's going to have to happen.
Yep.
And those providers, through that consolidation process, will hopefully get the right kind of synergies, which will help them to reinvest in incremental capabilities to enable them to provide services that are more appropriate and more forward-leaning for the customer base.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And tied back to your themes of customer first and technology-led, right? And M&A is a key part of that story.
Yeah, it is.
Fantastic.
It is. It's a tough thing to make work, but if you can get it right, then it's incredibly value-added.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, Peter, thank you so much for a really engaging conversation.
Sure.
Always enjoy spending time with you.
At Marnie's next time.
At Marnie's next time, indeed, with a pint in hand, indeed.
Yeah, good.
Brilliant. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
And thank you for watching Views from the Top, the podcast from our partners. Please look out for the next episode.